My name's Dan Delisandri, and I'm delivering the weekly Ableton Live course for the Get Your Act Together project with Clothcat. Each week, we're currently on week 6, so after this week we'll just have 3 more lessons to go, and here's all the other activities that you can take part in. So remember that you can rewatch all of the previous lessons, plus some of my weekly top tips around using Ableton Live. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then you can watch these and you'll get notifications and everything like that. So to begin with, let's quickly read through the disclaimer. So the YouTube disclaimer for the Get Your Act Together project: if you're under 18, tell your parents you are doing this session. Feel free to ask questions and make comments, but please stay safe online by just using your first name. Don't give out your contact details, and I hope you enjoy today's session. So feel free to ask questions as I go along. Leave comments in the comment section on YouTube, and then at the end of the lesson I will try to reply to all of these. If they are quite long, I'll reply to them separately, or do like a separate kind of catch-up video, something like that. Okay, so today we are looking at how you DJ in Ableton. So some people might not actually have thought that Ableton can be used for kind of live DJing, or creating DJ mixes or kind of mashups, things like that. Such a versatile piece of software, and you can definitely perform. That's why it's called Ableton Live, is because it's also used as like a live tool. More of a software, other DAWs, digital audio workstations are kind of catching up on this now, but Ableton was always kind of known as the one piece of software that you can use for kind of live streaming. So not for live, for live performances. And it's absolutely fantastic. So you can kind of do a mixture of kind of playing your own songs, playing other people's songs, mixed in there with some like weird kind of sound effects. You can obviously sing over the top or rap over the top if that's your thing. You can chuck in some beats and some acapellas in there maybe over the top of other songs. But so you can do absolutely loads and loads of stuff on it. But what I'm going to be showing you is how you kind of can pick, I don't know, a few songs, and you can create your own DJ mix. And so we're not going to be doing as much kind of really any music production today. It's more about how you can kind of use the software to line your tracks up and kind of DJ with those tracks. Cool. Okay, so to begin with, if you load up your software, and today we're not using any MIDI, we're just using audio tracks. I might let's use another audio track on there. And the way that I'm going to kind of use it, we'll start off, we'll just use 3 songs to begin with and see if we can add another one as we're going along. So we're going to be kind of using this view. You can set up and line up all your tracks in the arrangement view if that's what you want to do, if you want to kind of create a DJ mix. Or I would advise, if you want to do something live, so if you're DJing at a party, or you're doing like an event or a function or something like that, then you can drop your tracks in here and kind of trigger the whole track or part of a track kind of from this view here. So that's what we're going to be looking at first, and then I'll show you how you can kind of put it into this view and create your own DJ mixes. So we haven't got that long to do this, so I'll better crack on. So to explain what DJing is, I'm sure a lot of you have seen DJs live, performing live, maybe not in clubs or bars or maybe at some events, at festivals, most likely at kind of weddings, or if you're at schools, school discos, school parties, that sort of thing. Most of the time people would book a DJ, and what a DJ is, ultimately it is playing music, and most importantly keeping the music going. So when I DJ, that's a huge part of my job. I kind of teach DJing, and I run my own events, function events in Leeds, with a group of other DJs, and also DJ on my own occasionally at like weddings and functions and events, or with my mate Rick. We're called Cyclic, so that's our kind of DJ producer duo name. And when we DJ, whenever I'm DJing, there's no silence at all in between the songs. The way I see it is, if there's silence, people probably get a bit bored and then probably want to go home, or people think that you're not a very good DJ, because it's so important that when you're DJing that you keep the music going. And the way you do that these days, I mean, when I first started out, it was just using vinyl decks. Then they introduced CD turntables, CD decks, the CDJs, and then in recent years, you can buy, they're quite cheap. Some of them are quite cheap, some of them are quite expensive, but you can use DJ controllers. So you're kind of controlling the software on your computer. So you might be using something like Serato or Traktor, and you have all your tracks within the software or in iTunes, and then you can kind of pick the songs and you can kind of DJ that way. Or these days, with the kind of really, really expensive CDJs, you're using like little USB sticks or hard drives, and all your songs are on those hard drives and flash drives. And you just basically pop them in the decks, and then you can access everything that's on the stick to DJ with. And then you can also DJ with Ableton. So the way to kind of think about this is you're picking your songs and you're going to be putting them into the software. It's really important that you warp, especially with the electronic music. If you're kind of sticking to 1 BPM throughout the whole of your DJ mix, then it's advisable, that you kind of get your tracks into the software and you warp them. So I'm going to briefly show you how to warp within Ableton. One of my earlier lessons as part of this course was all about warping. So I strongly recommend, if you want to learn about warping in a lot more detail, then watch that video back. If you go to the Clothcat YouTube channel, go to the playlists and then the Ableton playlist, you'll see I've got a video on there which is all about warping. So please go back and watch that. But yeah, I'll briefly be showing you today how you can quickly warp your tracks, but we'll be warping like a whole song instead of just like a little section or like a drum beat or a vocal. We're going to be having to warp the whole song. And that's basically a huge part of DJing, is especially within kind of dance music, is you get in your tracks exactly the same tempo so that you can play them alongside each other. You can, although we are kind of beat matching, so you're matching up the beats. You do it more kind of manually as you're kind of going along. If you're using turntables or CDJs, digital DJing. Very different from vinyl. So vinyls are kind of a bit different to what we're going to be doing today. It's the same kind of principle, but vinyl's more kind of analog. You're kind of having to use your ear, whereas more digital DJing, it tells you what the BPM is. Or like within Ableton, you warp the song, and you can basically can stick to 1 BPM, which is really, really handy. So to begin with, I've loaded in a couple of audio tracks, 3 audio tracks here, and I'm going to pop over to iTunes and use a couple of songs that I co-produced a few years ago. So here's the songs. So let's tell you what, let's grab those top ones there. So you literally just highlight them. If I go back over to Ableton, just minimize that a second. And so over here I can you just drag and drop them over. So I've got them highlighted here. I'm just going to drag them over into Ableton. You just let Ableton kind of analyze them. You can kind of see them moving across there. There we go. So we're good to go. So just wait for those to be analysed. I'm just going to put these tracks on the different channels. So we've got 3 different tracks, 3 different channels, and this is how we're going to work. So I'm just going to move these down so there's a bit of space in between, and I'll explain why in a minute. I use iTunes a lot to kind of organise all my music. This is where I kind of make my playlists, all my different tracks. So I kind of pop in there. So a lot of the DJing I do is kind of open format. So sometimes I need to switch over to some hip hop or some rap, some R&B, back to some house, then play, I don't know, some funk and soul, something like that. So I organise everything kind of all in these playlists here, which is quite handy. So yeah, I strongly advise you organising your music. It takes an absolute age to do, but yeah, when it comes to kind of DJing and music, it's good to kind of have everything organised. Same with anything, try and be organised. So yeah, so I've drag and dropped those tracks into Ableton here. So yeah, it's how you kind of think about it. I co-produce these tracks, so I kind of know them inside out. I've listened to them hundreds of times. Within kind of electronic dance music, there are kind of two ways to think about the music that we listen to. So the way I see it is electronic music has been a lot of the recent, 99% of electronic dance music has been made in software like Ableton or Logic or FL Studio. And a lot of the time, all the music would have been kind of quantized and set to a grid. So when it comes to kind of analyzing and warping these tracks here, the software does it quite easily because it's all been made in computers and it's all kind of in a grid anyway. So once you warp it, you don't have to do that much more messing around. If it was, say, something from, I don't know, the 60s or the 70s or maybe even early 80s, which hasn't been made in a computer and it's been performed by live actual people, you'd often find that those tracks would slip out of time a little bit. And I find this when I'm DJing. So the computer might analyze it. They might say, yes, it's 120 beats per minute. But when you actually come to mix it in and you beat matching it, the tempo changes. So yeah, as a bit of be a bit careful with that when you're kind of warping older music. Most likely it will go out of time. So you might have to spend a little bit more time kind of warping it, kind of looking, seeing if it is actually going to stay in time or not. But when it comes to kind of newer dance music, because it's been made in computers, when you come to warp it, it will be a lot easier to kind of do that. So yeah, you'll see as I go along, that will make sense. So yeah, how are we going to kind of mix these tracks in? So when I DJ, there's kind of a way that I DJ when I mix, and I basically get the outro or the intro from one track and the outro from the other, and I line them up together. And then basically the idea is, as soon as the first song finishes, the second track kind of goes into the drop or goes into a breakdown or goes into a more interesting section. That's just one way that I DJ, and this is quite a good way of DJing within Ableton. So you kind of taking that sections out of a song. So we will isolate the introduction. We'll have the main body of the track, which probably lasts around 3.5 minutes. And then we have the outro. And then if you kind of do that for each track, then you can kind of line them all up. And it will all make musical sense. That's the way that I kind of see it. So to begin with, we'll warp our first track, which is Loose Rhythms from the Streets. And at the moment, in my preferences, if you're on a PC, go to options, and preferences is at the bottom. So if you go over to your warp, it says here auto warp LOM samples. I've got that off. I don't normally have that on. You can have it on. So if I were to have had that on and then loaded the tracks in, it would have auto warped them for me, which is quite handy, I think, if you're kind of DJing on the fly. I've never really used it that way, so I prefer to just kind of do it myself manually. So click on the first track. Here is the whole track here. Have a little listen to it, and you'll see there's a gap at the beginning. Okay, so you noticed it kind of, there was a gap and then it kind of started. So we want to get rid of that. You can see there's the silence there. So we will warp. So we'll move the play button to the beginning. There we go. Let's go even closer. Right up to, let's go a bit more in. Use your plus and minus on your keyboard when you're zooming in and out. There we go. Now, if I right click on that, and I'm going to say set 1.1.1 here, The warp is now activated. Let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to take off that one there. And then if I right click and then warp from here, there we go. So you can kind of see already 4 beats, 4 beats, and they're all kind of nice and lined up on here. That's because it's been made on a computer, so when you warp it, it will kind of stick to that grid quite easily. So what I need to do is have a little look at the track itself, and you can kind of identify how long the introduction is just from kind of looking at it. And you can kind of see at the beginning, the introduction, it's a bit thinner, but as the kind of bass comes in here in these sections, you can see it's much thicker. So let's quickly preview. So from the beginning, that's a bit slow. So let's have our tempo. Let's have it at 129. Let's turn these down a little bit because no doubt it will clip. Okay, so this is quite handy. If you go down to the kind of the bottom of your audio, you'll see a little speaker that appears. So if you click on that, it kind of skips ahead for you. There you go. So at bar 33, after 32 bars, that is your introduction. So what I'm just going to do here is highlight this section here, and then press Command and L or Control and L if you're on a PC, and that will set a loop. So now if I just hit play, that will just keep looping round and round. So I'm going to make my introduction yellow, and then I'm going to duplicate by pressing Command and D, and then on the one underneath I'm going to have, so the little play button will appear there at bar 33, and then I'm going to stretch the loop so it kind of goes, where's the end? There's the end there. So I think around this section here, that's when the outro will start. And then I'm going to turn that, let's make that red so it stands out, and then duplicate that again, zoom out. So I just need to have a little listen to when the outro kind of kicks in. There you go. And then that's the end. You can see that's the end there. So there we go. So we've got, let's make that yellow. So my intro is yellow, the main body of the track is red, and then that's yellow as well. Let's quickly close that down. So now we've kind of got an intro here. And I could jump if I wanted to. And you can make, you can make as many of these as you like. You can kind of have, like this red section here, you can kind of, I don't know, 32 bar loops. Every 32 bars, loop that. And then you can basically chop and change around the whole song if you wanted to. So at any point, and you can kind of see here from the little clock, yellow clock here, that's halfway through, and then when it gets to the top, it will start again. So you just need to make sure that you trigger the next one after an 8-bar kind of phrase. So that was a bit earlier, but because I'd set it all up and it's all warped and it's all in time, you can just drop it in. There we go, and then we've got the intro, which sounds like this. Get down to the beat. Yeah, I'm just going to change that there. That was, which bar was that? 58. Let's make that even shorter. I think it's going to go from... No, just leave it as it was. That was fine. Let's go back a bit more. There we go. So I'm just going to use this here. Okay, so what I need to do, I need to make sure that the next track that I'm going to be bringing in starts, the introduction starts on this kind of outro section here. Okay, so I'm just going to mute this just for now. And then the next track, I'm going to repeat the process again. So zoom in, find the first beat at the beginning of a track. Zoom in a bit more. You can kind of see where it begins there. Let's do it from there. Nice. Okay, set 1.1.1 there. Zoom out and take that one off. Oops. Zoom in, take that one off there. And then I just warp from here. There we go. Cool. So that's all nice and in time as well. And the same process. So if I just play it from the beginning, you can kind of do it as you're going along, kind of listen and work out where does the intro kind of end. Actually, tell you what, with this one, I'm going to do it slightly differently. So I'm just going to loop the first 8 bars because I know for a fact that you can actually just have it looping round and round. There's not a lot going on in that introduction. There is, I don't think there's even any bass. So it's just kind of drums and effectsy sounds. So we can kind of have this in the background whilst we kind of beat match the other song, have them kind of lined up together. There you go, nice and in time. So this time, let's set that as the introduction and the outro. So I'm just going to duplicate this and it will make sense what I'm doing as I go along. So this time I'm going to go to find the outro of the whole song. Okay, so that's where the outro begins, and that's where the song finishes. So instead of making it a loop, I'm going to take the loop off, so it will play from here, but because there's like a kind of echoey tail at the end, it doesn't just stop. I don't really want that to loop around. So I just need to make sure that when I kind of trigger that alongside the third track, it won't loop, it will just finish. So I'm going to make that orange just so I can kind of distinguish it from the other ones. Okay, I'm going to mute that, and then the third song, let's have a little listen to this. Zoom in, find the first beat, there it is. Actually, let's have a little listen. How does this start? Set 1 here. That one off. Let's just warp it, see what happens. There you go. It does work. How does this one sound? So we can kind of do the same thing there. That's got like an 8-bar introduction. Let's loop that. So when I kind of trigger this at the end, or at any point in the song, I'll trigger this at the same time, and you'll be able to hear them together. Yeah, that sounds fine. Okay, let's have a little go, see what this all sounds like. So click the master play over there to stop them all, and then we're going to begin with the first one, and then we're going to mix each one in at a time. Should I show you this next? Okay, tell you what, let's throw this in there as well. So another huge part of DJing is, I'm sure you've kind of seen a DJ mixer before. If you haven't, It's the kind of thing that the DJ is always twiddling, pressing buttons and stuff. Ultimately, it is volumes, so you kind of get your up faders, which like these are here, which is what we're using here. And then most mixers will have a 3-band EQ, which looks something like, if I go to the audio effects, go to EQ 3, and then we're going to put one of these on each of the channels. Okay, so I'm going to turn this down, so it's kind of midway. So it's low, mid, and high. So your low is like your bass frequencies, mid is your kind of mid-range frequencies, and then your high is your kind of top higher frequencies. So yeah, I'm going to duplicate that. So let's have it on each channel. So each channel, if you look at a DJ mixer, if you haven't got one, just Google DJ mixer, and you'll see all of them, like your kind of basic ones, will have an up fader and 3 EQ pots. So what we can do, we can turn down the EQ on each of these, except for the first one. And then the idea is, I mean, ideally you would have, if you had like a MIDI controller, you could do it on a launch pad or like an Ableton push, or other little MIDI keyboards which have little pots on them that you can MIDI map. So we can MIDI map those pots so that each you could have kind of 3 dedicated, or you can just have one for the bass if that's all, one for the bass, one for the high, leave the mid alone. But you can kind of all MIDI map them, and then when you twist the pot, it will be twisting this here as well. I'm going to be kind of doing it now, kind of showing you just using my mouse. It might not be as slick. Normally I'm kind of just twisting them, kind of turning one up and one down, like within that split second. Whereas on this, we might have to kind of just do it gradually. After, when I kind of do it in the arrangement view, you can automate these. So this is great if you are working out your own DJ mix. You can automate them so they kind of switch over nice and smoothly. So I'll show you how to do that once we've done that. Okay. So yeah, to begin with, let's start off with the first one. Should we record it in? Let's have a go at recording it in. Okay. So I'm going to take the metronome off. We don't need any. Let's have the count in. That's fine. Right, so you can hit record. Right, let's get that one ready. Oh, okay. Try that again. We have to unmute those so we can actually hear them. Here we go. Turn these back up now. And I advise kind of having this view open at the bottom, just so you can kind of see what's happening on the track. Like with a lot of other DJ software you get these days, you can see what's actually going on in the track. Crank this up a bit more. Okay, I'm going to switch to the next section now. So I'm going to line up the intro with the outro here. Let's just move those up. Click back on there. And then on there, this channel, make sure that the bass is turned down. Let's have a look at what's going on here. So that introduction there, yeah, that's going to loop. So yeah, it does take, there's always a bit of kind of pre-preparation, you could say, when you're doing this sort of stuff. I'm not going to play the whole song, I'll just let it play for a little bit longer. Okay, let's jump to the outro here then. Right, I had to start with this a little bit lower so you can fade it up. So this one here is just kind of looping round. There's this one over here, it's kind of playing all the way through. Start turning this one up. And then turn the bass down on this one here. So now what I'm going to do here is release the loop. And now the track can carry on. Because I'm going to stop that, we're not listening to that anymore. Volume's down anyway. So let's line this up, make sure that's going to loop, whereas that last one isn't going to loop. So I'm going to switch over to the outro. Let this play for a little bit longer and then we'll switch over to the outro. Cool thing here, it also tells you how many minutes and seconds are left, so you can kind of keep an eye on that. I'll just jump to the outro there. Turn the bass up. We just kind of switched over to that. So I'm going to just quickly create another audio track. See if we can do this one on the fly this time. Make sure we've got the EQ in there. Track that on that channel. Let's use the other track. So I'm not stopping. Go over to iTunes. Where are you, iTunes? There we go. Let's get this last one here. Chuck that in there. Where did he go? Put it underneath. And then zoom in. Okay, let's start it from there. So 1.1.1 here. And then walk from here. Highlight 8 bars. Loop that. We could I've just quickly chucked a loop on there in this section here. It does help to know your songs, because then you know which parts you can loop. So let's turn this one in. Let's drop this in now. Turn the bass up. slowly fade this one down. And this is kind of the way that you do it when you're DJing on decks as well. So that's just that looping around. Yep. Okay, so release the loop, and then that will carry on playing. So I'm going to keep this playing. What I'm going to do is, and again on a lot of DJ mixes you find, you get like effects kind of built in there. So you might have some delay, some reverb, phaser, all different things like that. So let's try a couple of these out. Let's try it with a flanger. Let's take that reverb off. So now when I turn the A up, so let's try it with a phaser instead. Phasers, I prefer phasers to flangers. You can kind of see the signals coming through there. Change your presets so you can actually notice it. Okay, so yeah, and you can change the effects. And if you want to put a bit of delay on there, okay, that's all good. Yeah, so you can try out different effects on there, on the sends up here, and then you can. I think in the light version you can only have 2, but in the full suite you can have a lot more kind of send effects on there. So you might want to kind of use those. Which one was I using the other day actually? The beat, not the beat repeat. Yeah, it was the beat repeat. That was quite cool. Let's pop that on there instead of a delay. Change the preset to, let's try, another one. There we go. Yeah, let's have a little mess around with that. Cool. Okay, so now, so everything I kind of was clicking there has now gone into this view, and I kind of showed you this on one of my, I think it was the first video that I did actually. So once you've kind of recorded anything in the session view, it will then go into the arrangement view and look a little bit like this. So you see it's all kind of greyed out. The best way to do it, you can kind of click them manually, or you can click this at the top and it just kind of deactivate them all. So you kind of see now, I think was it on the first mix that I did, it kind of came in a little bit off. So let's just have a look at why that was. This little section here. Yeah, so that, yeah, you can see it there, that's why. So you can kind of go back in and, that's strange why that is. Yeah, so you can hear that's a little bit off now. Maybe it was just how this track was warped. Let's go back to the beginning of that audio channel there. Let's see why that might have been. It might have just been how I set it all up. There you can go. You can see that that's where it actually begins. So let's go back, take that play button back from there to here. And let's quickly warp it from here. yeah, you can kind of see that's off there. So I'm just gonna, it sounded all right at first. Let's quickly adjust this so it sounds all right. That's better. So yeah, as I was actually recording, it's recorded all of the automation on there as well, which is quite cool. So now I can just kind of go back and edit, make these a little bit smooth as well if I wanted to. So if it was, for example, if I go to the EQ3, you'll see here what I did there. So I could make that a little bit smoother now, kind of moving down. So I could delete these out. If I knew that like that section there sounded good when I turned it down, then I can kind of go through and edit these so they're all a little bit smoother. So yeah, that's kind of doing it from this view, kind of getting everything set up and lined up in here, and then recording it, and then it puts it in this view here. Alternatively, I'll just quickly get rid of all of that. For time, okay. You could kind of just pick these up and drop them, drop them over there. What's that little section there? Is that just a little loop, I think, isn't it? Yeah. But then what it would mean is you having to kind of go in and organise the order a little bit more to whatever sort of mix you were trying to make there, because all of these are a little bit off. That's it. So we can move it up to line up the intro and the outro here. Same with this one here. So let's take that off of a loop, and then as we drag it across, you'll hear the whole song. So yeah, you can just kind of line these up in whichever order you want, and then you can go back to like a little section, chuck that in, something like that, or have it overlap a little bit more. But yeah, really, really important that you make sure that your tracks are warped. So give them more time. You can spend a lot more time kind of making sure that everything is in time, everything is warped, and yeah, zooming in and out, making sure that everything's lined up, your beats are all kind of lined up, which they are there, yeah. And just yeah, planning out your DJ sets as you like, really, using the FX, automating the EQs and the volumes, everything like that, really. So so yeah, I would say if you're going to kind of do live DJing on Ableton, I would use this session view here. But if you're kind of planning out a really clever kind of DJ mix, spend a bit more time, and you can kind of do something really cool in the arrangement view. So one final thing I need to show, which I haven't shown you yet, is using the crossfader. So what the crossfader is in Ableton, if you kind of see at the bottom here. So again, on the DJ mixer, you normally see a couple of channels, up faders, and then underneath those up faders you see a crossfader, and you can move it from side to side. So how it works on here, this is side A, this is side B, so you can have each channel lined up. So instead of using the up faders, so let's turn this up so you can hear everything. Instead of using the up faders, we'll use the crossfader. So I'll just quickly demonstrate how that works. So we're just using A at the moment. So let's have a little listen to this in A. Why can't I hear? Ah, yeah, that's right. That should be fine. Ah, I've got it turned down. That'll be why. Let's try this one here. So I can kind of trigger the introduction, and you won't hear it yet until I kind of move it across. 2, 3, 4. So if I slowly move this across, you'll begin to hear, you can see it coming up as well. There you go, that sounded nice and smooth. That's more along the lines of what you would hear if you're DJing. And the same thing kind of goes for if you're using a track which was a totally different BPM. If you were, I don't know, DJing kind of open format and you kind of chopping and changing BPM, it wasn't as important that you were beat matching, and you just wanted to kind of, someone requested, I don't know, something a bit different, and you can just use the crossfader to kind of get from one side to the next, and it's easier than kind of turning one up and turning one down. You're just moving one across. So if I just nip back into iTunes, we find something which is copyright free that we can use. What was it I was looking at? None of these. Okay, let's try this one here. Just drag and drop that in. I'll copy and paste it. That's another way. Copy, Command and C, Command and V to paste it in. So with this one here, I'm not going to warp it. I am going to change where it begins. Again, so there's a bit of a gap. Let's just move it to roughly where it begins. There we go, that'll do. So I'm not going to warp this time. Let's have a little listen. Let's stop all of those. And then, so we've got, what track do we have playing? This one here. Let's make sure, let's move that over and put this one onto A. And then you kind of hit and play and then dragging this across. There you go. So that sounded quite smooth. So if you're kind of DJing different tracks, you're chucking them in, that's a different way of doing it. So just don't warp them, because if you do warp it, it will put it in time with whatever the main tempo is. So just be aware of that. Obviously you can't set loops when it's not warped, so you just might want to be kind of keeping an eye on the tracks that are playing. This one there. There we go. So you can kind of see here, keep your eye on the times. Okay, so when it gets to 0, which is obviously here, it will stop. So you just need to make sure that you've got another track lined up and you're able to kind of just drop that in there at the same time. Okay, so I think that's everything I'm going to show you today about DJing live in Ableton. During the week I'm going to post a different video up, and it's all about using the cues. So within Ableton you can kind of set up, again, keep referring to it like a DJ mixer. You can have a kind of separate output for your headphones, so you can cue up the next track in your headphones whilst everyone else is still listening to the main song or whatever it is you're playing. So just be aware that you can do that. So you would be looking at this section here, and you can kind of change the output here. For it to work, you do have to have an external audio device, so like an audio interface that's got two outputs, because the main output, so you might have a kind of stereo output going out of your audio interface going into your sound system or your speakers that everyone's listening to, and then you have a separate output for your headphones, which is going to be your cue. So yeah, during the week I will post up a quick video about how you can set up Ableton Live with your audio interface, so that you can use the cue option, the cue out, so you can cue up your next tracks. It's a really, really important part of DJing. Not everyone knows about that. It's kind of the worst kept secret. But yeah, you can listen to the next song before the next one comes in, before anyone else is kind of hearing to it. And then you can kind of prepare everything, you can get it all up, get it all sorted, and then yeah, drop it in when you're ready. Yeah, okay. Have a quick check if there's any questions this week. Okay, no questions this week, but yeah, feel free to drop me a message if you've got any questions about what I've been showing you here. Here is my email address and my website. So info@dailysandrymusic.com. Please like these pages as well, so you can kind of stay up to date with the events that I'm putting on in the future, when we can put events on again, and any music that I'm producing, any collaborations I'm doing, things like that. So, but yeah, brilliant. Thank you for watching. Take care.